Unwanted intruder neutralized.
The name's Gambit, mon ami. Remember it.
If you haven't watched X-Men 97 yet, there will be spoilers in this video. And also, what are you doing watching this? Go watch it. It's really good. Listen, this is a Batman channel, clearly. I've ventured beyond that a few times with limited success.
Oh my God.
Terrible view count aside, it can't all be Batman. It just can't. But there is a connection here, albeit a depressing one when you consider what could have been. But before we discuss that, I'm going to take a deep dive into the main topic of this video. X-Men 97. I wanted some time to pass so I didn't run the risk of sounding hyperbolic when I discuss how I felt about this latest iteration of the X-Men. And I still might be running that risk, but this is the best show I've seen in years. I'm talking the upper echelon of TV viewing. And to be honest, no one is more shocked by this than me. I mean, I enjoyed the original X-Men animated series. It was a staple for myself growing up back when Saturday morning cartoons were a thing. That being said, I never put the original X-Men animated series in the same tier as 90s classics like Batman the Animated Series, The Simpsons, or even Dragon Ball Z. Genuinely speaking, it was good. Great on occasion. A tier for sure, just not S tier. So you can imagine my surprise when I sat down with my kids to watch this show after almost 30 years. I didn't know what to expect, but whatever I was expecting, it sure as hell wasn't this. And I wasn't ready for it. Storm's Omega level status being acknowledged just before it was taken away, sending her on a journey of self-discovery, Cyclops and Cable finally acknowledging their lineage and the pain associated with their complicated past, Nightcrawler and Wolverine having each other's backs as they tear apart Sentinel-human hybrids, and the unsung hero of the show, Gambit, who in the midst of a complicated love triangle, sacrificed himself to save his people from a genocidal murder bot. All of these complex, well-scripted arcs told with a style that respected the past, but also reflected the 30 years of evolution the art of animation has taken, specifically their use of anime-inspired mechanics during battle scenes. X-Men 97 did something several recent live-action superhero films couldn't muster, and was, in my opinion, their greatest feat. X-Men successfully built upon established nostalgia instead of turning it into a parody of itself. It refused to reduce the concept of nostalgia into some one-trick pony, one there to garner a cheap pop and applause. I'll give you a few examples.
Heard so much about you.
Great honor to meet you, sir.
Harry tells me you're quite the science whiz. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Look, our technology is advanced.
I can
and
help you.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Made mistakes. Then he had us.
Right shot! Now you want to get nuts! Come on! Let's get nuts.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
Almost forgot.
Am I going to war or a circus?
What'd you expect? Black leather?
The original X-Men live-action film was notorious for being afraid to embrace its comic book origins, particularly in the realm of costume design. But now, 30 years later, they were able to poke fun at the original movie perhaps for taking itself a bit too seriously, and thinking black leather looked cool. You took a classic line from the franchise and built upon it. You see, the first two videos were just cheap callbacks. They were there to generate a pop from the audience. This can't be said for the X-Men line. It shows a real respect for your audience, particularly a comic book audience, whenever you handle the things they like with a mature take, even if it's just a joke. But this is sort of the lifeblood of the X-Men 97 animated series. It took what was popular during the first show's arc and expanded beyond it in a clever, engaging way. X-Men 97 managed to grow with its audience. It evolved. The kids that watched the show in the 90s are now adults. And the complexity of the issues the X-Men faced in the 90s ran parallel with the maturity of that same audience. The original show touched on issues of discrimination, diversity, and prejudice introduced in the comics, concepts not typical for a children's cartoon.
But then why do people hate us?
People fear what they do not understand.
The movies did as well.
There are thousands of men on those ships, good, honest, innocent men. They're just following orders.
I've been at the mercy of men just following orders. Never again.
But what the show did so masterfully was show that their audience, the answer to those same issues, the ones presented to you as a kid that seem so black and white, exist in a far grayer area. They do this through the two most interesting characters in the entire X-Men mythos, Professor X and Magneto. Their friendship, respect for each other that they exhibit despite the difference in their philosophical and social ideologies is one of the greatest trade-offs in comics. But what I find really interesting about X-Men 97 is the idea that the good guy, Professor X, might not be right. And maybe, just maybe, the bad guy, Magneto, well...
Magneto was right.
He tried Professor X's way, showing an amazing amount of restraint, as well as giving one of the best monologues I've ever heard in a cartoon, or a TV show, or a movie, or really any piece of fiction.
The reward. What must we do to be good enough?
And ultimately, all Magneto got from trusting humans was captured. Again. And in captivity, he was forced to stare at a visual reminder of what happens whenever you trust human beings. Again.
I have remarked once, my dear, and let me assure you, no needle shall ever touch my skin again.
So Magneto's perceived prejudice seems justified, which is a terrible thing to say. But is he wrong? I don't know. These are the kind of questions I wasn't expecting to ponder watching this series, and naturally, this curiosity led me to compare what I had just watched, the idea of building off nostalgia or perceived nostalgia, and how this notion has worked itself into the current crop of superhero films. Superhero properties, movies in particular, go through trends, in part because this is the nature of comic books and the monthly cycle they work on, but more recently as a means to keep the comic book film bubble from bursting. Sometimes they went dark, maybe too dark.
Just the I've been looking for.
So then they course corrected to something lighter.
Holy rusted metal, Batman!
Huh?
You're ground, it's all metal, it's full of holes, you know? Holy!
Oh.
Sometimes it was cool to be funny.
You know, the question I get asked most often is, Tony, how do you go to the bathroom in the suit? Just like that.
Other times serious.
This isn't gonna change what happened. I don't care. He killed my mom.
The most impactful trend to date, at least financially speaking, has been the idea of a shared universe. A universe where characters from different movies can cross paths, fight each other, or join together. This, coupled with post-credit scenes ripe with Easter eggs. Billions and billions of dollars began to change hands as the shared universe continued to expand, reaching a high point with 2019 Avengers Endgame, the culmination of over a decade of work. It was done to perfection, but in a lot of ways, Endgame felt like the endgame. And this is a business. You're only as good as your next movie. The shared universe concept continued to lose steam with Marvel in part to a less than stellar streaming lineup, as well as the faces of the franchise, Steve and Tony, departing. Things felt rather bland before the success of Spider-Verse, which actually came out before Endgame but developed a cult status of sorts, convinced some studio head to go beyond a shared universe and into a multiverse. One fueled by nostalgia. 3 Spider-Men in one movie? Check. Bring back all the old villains? Check. What about DC? Their shared universe has been a series of ups and downs. Easy. We put 2 Batman in the same film. Done. Bring in one Quicksilver in place of another? Brilliant. Wait, skip that one. Spider-Man was a major success, and The Flash, the film Keaton appeared in as Batman for the first time in 30 years, was a nuclear bomb. No Way Home did an adequate job providing audiences with the shot of nostalgia they were looking for through a variety of means, creating a playbook of sorts. Callbacks to previous movies, often humorous.
Oh, there it goes.
You okay?
Oh, it's my back.
And one in particular that I felt was well-deserved and shot for someone in desperate need of some closure.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay?
My only real issue with No Way Home is Toby. His performance was fine. He had some good moments, a couple of comedy beats, but he was lacking something X-Men 97 had in abundance. Growth. It's been 15 years since we saw this version of Spider-Man, this Peter Parker. How has he changed as a person? How has he grown? Fatherhood, for example, or having his opinion of crime fighting changed after a decade or so of doing that kind of work. I get that this film was trying to juggle a lot of characters and time is limited, but look at the growth of Peter Parker between the Spider-Verse movies. It was a missed opportunity. Then again, I'm probably being too hard on Spider-Man considering what WB did to Keaton in The Flash. They brought back Michael Keaton, whose original Batman film was a major success. When I say major, I mean no Batman movie made the kind of money that film did until The Dark Knight. And though Michael Keaton was the best part of the Flash film, it fell far beyond expectations. Keaton's Batman recycled old lines for cheap applause.
How much do you weigh?
And expended very little on what happened to his version of Bruce. It's almost like DC copied what Marvel did with No Way Home, but half-ass. Or maybe quarter-ass, I don't know. But there were so many questions left on the table. How did he cope with the presumed death of Alfred? Why did things never work out with Selina? What's the story behind each of these suits? Did he have a Robin? This one really hurts because if The Flash would have performed well with audiences, we would have gotten the long-awaited, overdue, elusive Batman Beyond movie. And most frustrating of all, I don't think any of this was Keaton's fault. He could only work with the material he was given. But I digress. The point I'm trying to make is you can do nostalgia. People love to see it, and if Deadpool is any indication, this idea of bringing back older characters for a nostalgia fix isn't going anywhere. But let's hope to make X-Men 97 the standard going forward. Show me growth and development, answers to complicated questions. Obviously, Batman and Spider-Man don't face the same issues of discrimination that you get from the X-Men, but it also doesn't have to be a response to social issues. We want to see time's effect on them. We, the audience, often aren't the same people we were 15, 10, or even 5 years ago. So when you bring back a classic character, if you want the audience to relate to them, then it might be a good idea to follow suit before you risk murdering a beloved franchise for cheap, unearned applause. Hope you enjoyed the video. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and until next time, same bat time,